Blessings, everybody. So, there are a lot of people in the world that watch porn and masturbate, both men and women. You know, a lot of people enjoy having sex and are addicted to having sex. And a lot of people struggle with lust and the temptation of sex. It's a real struggle out here. And a big reason, one of the reasons why people want to have sex, is because they're searching for love. They want to feel love, and the short pleasure of sex feels like love to some people. And some people just want to feel pleasure, pleasure themselves. But sex isn't love, God is love. God is peace and God is joy. The world and the people are hurting, broken and lost, Yeah. I used to be one of these people, so I can tell you and speak from experience, A lot of relationships in this world are based on sex alone. And I've had quite a few of those. And it's just no good, honestly. It's usually toxic and causes problems and drama, right? I used to really love sex, and it used to be a big part of my life. And since I started following God the real way, I made the choice to not have sex anymore until I get married, And that was about 11 months ago, almost a year. And it's pretty hard changing that habit and resisting the temptation, resisting lust. It's a stronghold of the enemy, stronghold of the devil, that he uses to corrupt the children of God, corrupting our minds, our bodies, and our spirits. Alright? In the Bible, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, 19 to 20, it says, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You are bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies." So God intended for sex to be a benefit and a part of marriage, to enjoy with your husband or your wife and to have children. Okay? So, sex outside of marriage is a sin. And sin separates you from God and brings you further and further away from Him. Some people think that certain sexual activities are okay, are less bad than others, but we shouldn't be having any kind of sex before marriage. Not oral sex, not penetration. We shouldn't be doing any kind of fornication, honestly. And nowadays, society has been made to accept that sex outside of marriage is normal and okay. And it's not, but this is the work and the influence of the devil, no doubt. It's in the music, it's on the TV, it's in movies, it's almost everywhere you can think of. Sex and pleasure is made to be a good and normal thing that brings no harm, only pleasure. But that's not true. Sexual sin is a serious trap, because sex feels good and it brings you pleasure. No matter how short or temporary it might be, and we as humans, we love to seek pleasure. We love to feel pleasure. So, once you have sex for the first time, more than likely, you're going to want to keep having sex and keep on sinning, because it feels good. And on the surface, it seems like there's no downside, there's no negative. But sex is dangerous. As I say, it separates you from God. It's sinning against your own body. There are sexual diseases you can catch. You can have children by accident and with someone that you didn't want to have kids with, causing you to be connected to that person for at least the next 18 years if you plan on taking care of the kid, And sex also binds your spirit to the other person's spirit, which is called a soul tie. That's what we call a soul tie nowadays, So sometimes You will have sex with a person and you wonder why different things start happening to you and why things start going wrong in your life. You know, you wonder why you start feeling and acting differently, and it's because of their spirit. Their demons, their problems, and their bad luck have now rub off on you. You know, these are just some of the spiritual consequences of sex, right? There's probably a lot more. And things might seem all good on the surface, but in the spirit things are going wrong, you know. So I can also tell you that sex and lust will definitely have an effect on your emotions, on your behavior, on your lifestyle, on your thoughts, and on your future. When you have a child with someone that you didn't plan to have a child with, you know, that creates a dysfunctional situation. And really the child is the one who has to suffer. Possibly growing up without a father or a mother, being separated from one of the parents, being in custody battles. The child has to be in the middle of all of that, you know, growing up in toxic environments and other problems. And this is a big reason that creates unruly children, bad kids that have less guidance and end up doing bad things in life, you know. And God didn't intend for things to be like that, right? He really didn't. The devil is the one who perverted everything and confused everything. Sex is supposed to be for the marriage bed, as I say, you know. And lust has a space to grow and take root when you see your body as your own. But the battle with lust is the one that you fight alone. The Holy Spirit is with you, you know. And something you can do when lust and temptation try to take over is place your hand over your chest or your heart and you say, this body is God's temple. And something that we need to understand as well is that temptation is the beginning of sexual sin. And it's something that we have to face every day. So we need to take control of it, control ourselves, renew our mind, not just change our behavior, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm probably going to do a part 2, maybe even a part 3 about sex and addiction to sex and lust, temptation and porn and masturbation and all those things. So yeah, next time, people.